Hey everyone, Donna here. I have absolutely no idea what in the world I'm going to title this video, but basically there are some thoughts that have been swishing around in my brain about a difference that I've noticed between Germans and Americans regarding kindness and healthcare and taxes. Now, I definitely do not presume to have it all figured out or think that my way of interpreting what I've noticed is the end-all be-all way to interpret it, but this is something I've been thinking about and I'm really looking forward to hearing your take on it down in the comments. But now, how I have interpreted the things I've noticed thus far in 5 acts. Make sure to stick around to the end or you won't get the full picture of what I'm talking about. But now for this, let's head into the living room. Okay, let's go. Act 1, a bump in the shoulder. A difference I've noticed is that in the US, when two people are walking along and they accidentally bump into each other, it's pretty common practice for both people to apologize to each other. Even the person who is not at fault, or it's an accident, so nobody is at fault. It's quite common for both people to say like, oops, sorry, and maybe even laugh about the whole thing. Didn't see you there. In Germany, I say excuse me and sorry, I think more than almost anyone else that I come into contact with in supermarkets and other places around town. When I first moved to Germany, I think I said sorry way more often. I think I say it a little less often now, but I have definitely been on the receiving end sometimes of bumping into someone in Germany and them just kind of turning and scowling at me as I apologize, even if it was really totally nobody's fault. And I have witnessed this kind of exchange between other people sometimes. For example, I once saw 2 people accidentally bump into each other at a beer garden, and both people turned and gave each other such an annoyed, pissed off look that could pierce through your soul. Act 2, healthcare and taxes. The healthcare story saga in America is a long and, like many things, complicated one, but I'm going to super duper compress and summarize and generalize things here by saying, yes, there are a lot of Americans who would love to have a healthcare system in the US like in Germany, and yes, there are a lot of Americans who would like to have some higher taxes like in Germany. Generally, the same Americans who want to have a healthcare system like the one in Germany are also interested in having some higher taxes like in Germany. But seeing as America still has much lower taxes in general than in Germany, and seeing as America still does not have the same kind of healthcare system as in Germany, clearly there's a huge portion of Americans that don't want that. Which, just before we move on, no, the healthcare and tax system in Germany is not without its flaws. It's not perfect, it has flaws, and I've come up against some of them and experienced some of the flaws firsthand, but still, in my opinion, it's a healthier and better system than the one in the US. In general, in Germany, going to the doctor is not something you have to save up for. You don't have to think, well, I have bills to pay, so I can't afford to go to the doctor this month. I have heard about people in the US not calling ambulances because they were afraid of the huge fee. I have heard and known people in the US who have been really, really sick and have avoided going to the hospital for way too long because they couldn't afford it. And then they were in debt from the hospital visit. I have heard people in the US saying how they can't go to therapy because they can't afford it and their insurance either doesn't cover therapy or only covers a couple sessions, and so on and so on and so on, which is just absolutely awful. This should not be the case. And while Germany is not perfect for the most part, in Germany, those who need medical help can get it without worrying about it putting them into debt. Act 3, Grantek. Okay, so in Germany, when people bump into each other on the street, sometimes I have seen and experienced them glaring at each other, totally annoyed or pissed off. Grantig is the word that I have heard used here in Bavaria. And yeah, I would say it's kind of common to see people in the bus in Germany, for example, if someone tries to get on the bus before they've gotten out. Or the other day, I guess I was in the way on the sidewalk and I got a pretty angry, grumpy remark from a couple of people who were walking by. Obviously, this is not always the case in Germany. There are also so many people who aren't doing this, of course. But I'm just trying to get across that these are kind of common reactions that I didn't really experience as often in the US as I do here in Germany. But if you talk to many Germans about healthcare and taxes, I'm guessing also those same people who give you a totally annoyed look if you bump into them. I don't know for sure because I haven't tried stopping and asking them after I've bumped into them and they kind of barked at me. But anyway, from my experience, if you ask Germans about healthcare and taxes, a lot of them will complain about the taxes being too high and wishing the taxes would be put to better use or used somehow more economically. But at the same time, if I ask, well, do you think it should be every person for themselves? Should Sally and Ben have to fend for themselves if they get sick? Should people get to individually decide what they want to pay taxes for and whatnot? The Germans I've talked to will usually look at me like I'm being ridiculous and say an incredulous, no, that doesn't make any sense. This is a society, the Germans have told me. We're one society and we have to care for everyone. Everyone deserves health care, of course, and taxes go to make sure that things are running correctly in the country. It's not perfect, but caring for others is part of being in a healthy society. That means taxes for the country and healthcare. Act 4, Americans don't care. So in the US, where people consider it so important to be polite and kind to other people, if you bump into someone, everyone apologizes and you say hello to people that you don't know when walking down the street. And in several towns in the US, I've experienced it that people often say bye and thank you to the bus driver when getting off the bus. In a place where people are apparently so concerned with being friendly and kind to others, why do so many people in the US not want higher taxes and a healthcare system like in Germany for the good of everyone? Is it because they don't care about other people? That's not my take on it. Americans are often really caring. There are so many amazing, super kind, super caring stories coming out of the US. People in the US donating money to charities and donating their time and energy to charities, volunteering on the weekends, going way out of their way to put on these huge, elaborate, special events and special moments for children who are sick. Americans can really be some of the most giving, most selfless people. There are just so many really amazing stories of Americans going above and beyond to help their neighbors or help someone else out. I would guess that most of the people that I know in the US have at some point volunteered to help other people. It was just totally normal for me to go volunteer on the weekend when I was in high school. I helped to build houses and I helped collect food for food drives and I volunteered sorting hair for wigs for children. And yeah, there are just so many Americans who volunteer after storms to help rebuild and on, so much more. And I'm not saying these things to be like, I'm such a good person, I volunteered. No, I'm just trying to say that volunteering and doing things for other people and donating money and time and kindness is a pretty common thing in the US. The thing, and in this case I would say the problem, is in the US, we seem to often have this thing about not being told what to do. In general, people in America seem to have a higher, I would say maybe resentment or grudge, perhaps, against rules telling them that they have to do something. So while I think a lot of Americans who don't want higher taxes or who don't want to pay for a healthcare system like in Germany would say they definitely think that schools should get money and that sweet kid down the street should absolutely get the money they need for their surgery. And they will even go to extreme lengths to do money-raising events for specific people and specific causes. I think many Americans get quite upset at the notion of the government or someone trying to tell them that they have to help someone else, or telling them that they have to put more money into a collective pot to be used as needed, aka taxes, or telling them that they have to pay money so that if their neighbor gets sick, yes, even the neighbor that they don't really like that much, that person can go and get the help that they need. Yeah, I would say that's the problem. In the US, I think people really do want to help and people do want to do good for others, and people are very kind and caring and thoughtful. But I think there's often this tendency in America for people to want to be able to decide for themselves for whom they are caring, to which causes their money is going. They don't want to be told who they have to help. They want the freedom to make that decision themselves. But unfortunately, that's not how a society really works and runs smoothly. You have to give to everyone, not just picking and choosing to give to the people and the causes that you want to. Act 5. Germans don't care? When I first moved to Germany and I had a little extra time on my hands, I asked around to try to find places that I could volunteer. And I just found that it wasn't as easy to find volunteer opportunities as it had been in the US. Why? Because Germans don't care about others? No, because the taxes that everyone is paying in Germany often pays for that thing to be taken care of. In the US, if you drive around the country, you'll often see signs along the road saying who has donated their time and or money to keep that stretch of road clean. Sometimes it's dedicated, for example, to a company or an organization. In Germany, that doesn't have to be volunteer work, donations, because as far as I know, taxes go to that. People donating money to causes isn't as big of a thing here because we are donating to the cause every month by the higher taxes coming out of our paychecks. So donating is a thing here. It's called taxes. And then that goes to the things that people volunteer to do in the US. So my question for you is, why do you think the US doesn't have a healthcare and tax system like in Germany? Do you like the healthcare and tax system where you live? What would you pick to have done differently if you could pick something? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please don't forget to subscribe for more videos and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. And a really, really, really big thank you so much to our patrons on Patreon who help make these videos possible. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to check out our Patreon page, you can find a link to that down in the description box below. Until next time, auf Wiedersehen!